The Clean Break Memo, written in 1996, was an Israeli policy paper prepared for then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu by Richard Perle, Douglas Feith, and David Wurmser, among others, who advocate for Israel rejecting land for peace deals, pursuing aggressive containment, destabilization, and rollback of regional threats: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Iran. The document emphasizes working with allies like Turkey and Jordan to reshape the Middle East balance of power.
10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me."
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
And wouldn't you know, Richard Perle, Douglas Feith, and David Wurmser, who helped compose the Clean Break Memo for Benjamin Netanyahu, all held prominent positions within the Bush administration where they would help craft Middle Eastern policy, including who we go to war with. I guess it's just a big coincidence that 4 out of the 7 countries named in that memo were also enemies of Israel, as Israel clearly stated in their public policy paper that came out in 1996.